Welcome back, everyone. We've been talking about the political firestorm between Wike and the FCT, but the reality is that the entire country is shifting under our feet. I want to take you into a very important discussion that happened on Arise News recently. They sat down with veteran analyst Mahmood Jega and Donu Kogbara to break down what they are calling a combustible situation in Nigeria. Here is why you need to watch this interview carefully. They discussed the shocking move by INEC to shift the election date to January 2027. Is this a technical fix for Ramadan or a strategic move to truncate the opposition campaign time? You will hear their reaction to the terrifying report that 10,000 bandits have flooded Bauchi State. They asked the hard question: how can an army of that size move across Nigeria without being stopped? The Peter Obi factor. Donu Kogbara gives a very raw analysis of why the ruling class seems obsessed and rattled by Peter Obi, especially following the recent attacks in Edo State. The police shakeup. They dive into the sudden removal of the IGP and what it means to decapitate the police force right in the middle of a security crisis. This isn't just news, it's a roadmap of where Nigeria is headed in the next few months. I want you to watch this full interview and pay close attention to the warnings these experts are giving. Watch the interview below and then meet me in the comments. I want to know if you agree with Donu that the opposition is being systematically intimidated. Don't forget to subscribe to RobinNewz for more deep dives like this. Let's get into the footage.
Multimedia journalist and former BBC correspondent Donu Kogbara, who currently has a column in Vanguard newspaper, is the star of a YouTube channel called Donu's World, co-presents a podcast. And let me come to you first, Mahmood. The Electoral Commission, INEC, says the new 2027 election dates are about better planning, but critics like the ADC see room for manipulation. What do you reckon, from a neutral standpoint that I know that you occupy, does this decision strengthen or weaken electoral credibility?
Well, I must sympathize with the Electoral Commission because they were working within the limit set by the electoral law at the time when they set the timetable for the elections. And then people said that it falls squarely within the Ramadan period of next year, and millions of Muslims who will be fasting by that period could be discouraged from going to the polls. Now, it would be very difficult for the Electoral Commission not to listen to that kind of argument. So they got the National Assembly and the President to immediately amend the act and give them a wider latitude. But the downside of it is that the election was brought forward. So since the election was brought forward to January, then the party primaries have to be brought forward to April, and we are in February now. Now that's terrible. But I don't fault the Electoral Commission for that. I don't know that they could have moved the elections forward instead of, because to even elect a president in early January and he will not be inaugurated until May 29th, exactly, it's not very neat as far as I can see.
Okay, Donu, good to see you. Let me ask you this, I mean, something similar. I mean, is it your assessment that this is a technical adjustment or a political calculation? Does this reinforce opposition fears about institutional bias ahead of 2027?
Well, I mean, if Ramadan is the reason given, I think that can be respected. And I think there have been rumors about the election being brought forward for whatever reason for a long time. And I think the opposition should have been prepared for the possibility. In fact, at one point, they even said the election might be in November. So people have had plenty of time to get ready for the possibility of a truncated run-up period.
Right. Okay, well...
I'm not saying, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it is now then ideal that this has happened.
Right.
But I just, well, you know.
Yeah. It's one of those things, isn't it? You've just got to live with it, you know. Okay, let's move on from there, Mahmood Jega. Let's turn to security and the Bauchi alarm, because that's essentially what it is. Governor Bala Mohammed saying over 10,000 bandits have entered Bauchi State, and he held an emergency meeting with President Tinubu today on that, presumably to brief him. I mean, it's a scary movie, except that it's not a movie. At what point does such a thing become a national emergency? I mean,
assuming the figures are correct.
Yeah, I think INEC was saying, well, who counted?
Exactly, because
who
you see,
the
even
bandits?
at the peak of the Boko Haram problem, I don't think there ever was a time when 10,000 Boko Haram people, probably 700, maybe 1,000, moved in Borno State.
But it's still alarming, whatever the figure.
Yeah, of course, it's alarming, especially Bauchi is not a border state. So for such an army to be able to arrive in Bauchi, they must have crossed several other states. So definitely, I mean, even an attack by a dozen bandits is a cause for national worry. And since the Americans are here, and it is said that they help with intelligence and surveillance, they should be able, I think, to confirm the figures and show exactly where these bandits are and assist the Air Force to carry out bombing raids. That's the way I see. We are just hearing about the Bauchi episode. The facts have to be confirmed. But if it is true we have international help, it should be possible to immediately locate where they are and also arrange for instant annihilation.
Indeed. And Donu, I mean, obviously it also depends on whatever agreements Nigeria has with the United States. But I mean, how on earth could, assuming that figure that's being bandied around is actually correct, and it came directly from Bala Mohammed because he said it. I mean, everybody saw him say it. How on earth could 10,000 bandits have been allowed to enter and settle in Bauchi State? Is this an intelligence failure, political exaggeration, or evidence of a system under massive strain?
Well, Nigerians are fond of wild approximations. I mean, it's like whenever they say there's going to be a 1 million man march, you can be sure there'll be about 300 people. So I'm sorry, I don't want to trivialize such a serious problem, but I would question how anyone would know 10,000. 10,000 is such a neat figure. It's like you have to walk 10,000 steps a day. It's too pat. But I'm sure that Bala Mohammed is under terrible pressure from a bunch of hoodlums. And I mean, it's everything. It's a political failure. It's a military failure. It's a disgrace to the nation. And I've said this before, as much as President Trump gets on my nerves on so many other levels, I wish he would just come and help the Nigerian government sort out this mess, because they are clearly unable or unwilling to sort it out themselves.
And I mean, when you think about things like Bala Mohammed and so, I mean, you wonder what on earth they're actually doing there. I mean, not him specifically, but the people who are, fight to be governors, and they give us all these promises. Well, I'm going to do this, insecurity, blah, blah, blah. And then when they get in there, they just throw their hands up. I mean, you could make the argument that, security is still pretty much a federal thing. But what's the point of having, this lot there?
Well, Bala Mohammed, like all governors, is the chief security officer of his state. But that's a very nominal thing. It doesn't mean anything. The police commissioner reports to somebody else, really, at the end of the day. The whole thing it's a title without meaning. So I don't blame them. I blame the core law enforcement personnel.
Right.
The people who control the deployment of troops. And I just don't know, I am just absolutely devastated.
And I mean, Mahmood Jega, that strengthens the call for state police, does it?
Yeah, if it is handled very well, there is almost a national consensus now to have state police, although, of course, there are all kinds of misgivings. But you know what I wanted to say about the figures? People in traumatic situations always tend to exaggerate numbers of attackers. We had many cases, just one, when Sheikh Albani was assassinated in Zaria. the man who was with him in the car when they opened fire, when he came out, he said that 20 attackers were firing from all directions at the vehicle.
Well, they would have killed themselves,
the police later confirmed that there are
from.
only two attackers. So you see, if you are lying in a vehicle and they are firing,
Yes.
you could get the impression they are 100.
Indeed.
Kind of thing, yeah.
It's a bit like the 12 men of Hindustan, isn't it? Touching the elephant and trying to figure out. But let me ask you this, and I'll come to you in a minute, Donu. Let's turn to another security-related issue that may get worse as 2027 draws near, and that's the issue of political violence. We saw in Edo State this week the attack on Peter Obi, John Odigio Yegun, and other ADC leaders. How serious is this moment?
It is terrible in the sense that it could be a dress rehearsal for what we are about to enter. The elections have even been brought forward. We are going to have party primaries in 2 months.
So there's greater desperation.
Exactly. So the desperation is likely to increase. And you can imagine, these are not, the parties have not held primaries. It's not a proper campaign or anything. Mr. Obi and the other ADC leaders were paying a visit to Edo State. Who was it? Who sponsored this shooting? It is really very important for the police to immediately apprehend the culprits and identify their sponsors before this thing becomes the norm.
Absolutely. And Donu, do you see this as an isolated incident or part of a broader pattern of intimidation against opposition figures? Are we seeing a sort of dangerous normalization of political violence in Nigeria? Not that that is necessarily new in this country.
It's not new at all. And I don't see it as a wider pattern of intimidation and violence against the opposition. I see it as a wider pattern of intimidation against Peter Obi. There's something about Peter Obi that really rattles the APC people, from that dim-witted governor in Edo to his paymasters.
Although we can't say for sure that this was an APC orchestrated
he was
attack.
rattled.
Let's be clear on that.
I'm not saying he's the one who actually led the attack. I'm saying he was rattled enough to make certain inflammatory and threatening statements. Okay? So there's just something about him that bothers them. And I'm wondering, Fintiri, the governor of Adamawa, decamped today.
Yeah, he's just defected to the APC.
That makes it like 31, 32, is it 33 governors who are now in APC. And yet, this one little Peter Obi, who's trudging around trying to sort of raise awareness and offer Nigerians an alternative, is regarded as so threatening. They're always on at him. They're obsessed with him. I have a cousin who's in the APC. Total obsession. That's all they're interested in. They're not trying to kill Atiku or anybody else. It's Peter Obi.
But why do you think that's the case?
Because he has an organic, he has a natural affinity with the people. He doesn't have to bribe, maim, intimidate, or do anything to get people going, way, and cheering. I've been with him in public spaces. I've been quite surprised. He really is genuinely popular. And I suppose if you have to buy popularity and intimidate it out of people or steal it or whatever, fake popularity, then you're going to have a guilty conscience and a profound envy, jealousy problem against somebody to whom it comes naturally.
Yeah, that's a very interesting analysis. But we have to move on because we've got other things here.